All right, everybody, welcome back to another sustainable shit talking episode. I decided that's gonna be the name. So from now on, basically everything is gonna start with sustainable shredding, sustainable bulking, sustainable shit talking. So this is gonna be the episode. I stole this idea from Vigorous Steve. It was on Dave McConey's podcast, and he's kind of in the pharmacology enhanced realm. Checked out his channel. And everything is vigorous something. Mm-hmm. So like how to whatever manage your health. Subtitle of the video: vigorous health. How to build more muscle, vigorous muscle building. So like now it's gonna be sustainable shit talking.
Yeah.
So
sustainable sustenance.
Yeah, or sustainable substantialism. Just kidding. Yeah. And then eventually I'm actually going to talk about sustainability and sustainable sustainability. That's going to be the real inception.
Or sustainable substance abuse.
Anyway, I think we exhausted this joke fairly well.
Yeah.
So,
So before we get into Omarisov territory, last time I mentioned that since you brought up that topic without telling me about it beforehand, I have a question for you. So why is it that every washed-up fitness trainer either becomes a coach to other trainers? So basically, if you're not good enough to actually produce results with clients, hey, you can always get into the business of coaching other trainers on them how to then coach other trainers on how to coach trainers. Or the recent trend I noticed, which is, if you're not good enough to train people, then you can always become a dating expert. So I don't know what's going on with that, but pretty much like there's this guy who was caught. Basically, he plagiarized like John Meadows' programs and he did some other shit. It's like basically I think he scammed people and stuff. And now I think he also moved to Romania. So hey, maybe he will visit me one day or something. He will lynch me or stab me or something. But anyway, so that suddenly now he's a dating expert. So I have a friend who keeps sending me his stories, and it's basically about women and how you gotta be an alpha and this and that. And it's like, it's so amusing to me. It's like, so is that the new career orientation? So if I don't make it into, if I don't become the prolific coach I want to be, then one day I will just turn into a dating expert?
That's a fantastic question. And first of all, I'm just gonna say, let's not hate on these people too much, because one day I might well make that shift myself. Because the explanation is fairly simple. There is a lot more money in that market. So the thing is, people have different desires to learn a language, to learn how to cook, to learn how to play the guitar, to get a six-pack. But above all of that is the desire to make more money. And you can justify high prices a lot more when your promise is that you will teach someone how to make more money, right? So if I told you, hey, Andrei, you're not completely satisfied with your chest, I have this really cool method that, trust me, I used with people who had similar problems as what you have. And look at their chest now. Like, it looks like an armor plate. How much money would you be paying for that? Like you might, it's something that's kind of a pain point for you and something that's important to you. So you might reach into your pockets. So what, you might pay me $500 for that, let's say. Like maybe that would be something you would be willing to pay, but you would not pay me $5,000 most likely. Now, if I told you that, hey, Andrei, I have this method and I can promise you that in 2 months, if you apply this, you can make $200,000 a month. And look, the program is $10,000 for a 2-month long period. I mean, that's crazy. But man, if I can really promise you that you can make $200,000 per month, you might consider doing that. So, I mean, it's that simple. In different markets, there is like bigger and bigger price points. I mean, in the business market, there is a lot more money than in the fitness market. In the fitness market, there is generally more money than in the language learning market. It's just kind of how it goes. So I think the explanation is that simple. And unfortunately, so your plan, I think, would only, jokingly set plan would only partially be viable because I think you cannot fully skip the stage of you making it as a fitness business first. So I think if you just like, well, you know, here is my portfolio. Well, I don't really have one because, I didn't really make it as a coach, but I'm going to be a coach for other coaches. Oh, man, you better be the best freaking marketer in the world if you want to pull that off. But I've seen a lot of people making that shift, and that's why, honestly.
Yeah, the first part was a joke mostly. I'm more interested in the whole dating thing. It's I don't know, man. It's so, to me it's pathetic. But like we discussed last time, maybe it's because I have been gifted some traits which seem to be fairly, advantageous with women. Height is one. So for example, I only recently, meaning like in the last 2 years, maybe I noticed how big of an issue is height for others. And I mean, that's just obvious. It's the same with everything else. If something doesn't influence you directly, don't even notice it. Like, we don't notice when things are in order. Like, that's the bad thing. For example, if you're great at your job, your boss often doesn't notice you. It's like, why would I notice that person who does everything well? I notice the idiot who doesn't do anything. And it's the same thing with height. I mean, I was always fairly tall, so I always cared about my weight or my, belly fat, because that was an issue. I didn't care about height because, hey, I was always tall. And when I started having conversation with guys who are like 170, 172, and not only that, I mean, I knew that there are shorter people, but the what's the word? This what's the word I'm looking for? Not necessarily perceived limitation, but they have this. I don't know. There's a word that's escaping me right now, but it's gonna come to me eventually. So they have this issue with themselves, and they make it out honestly bigger deal than it should be. I mean, it's like there are silly women who want tall guys. Silly in the sense that they want like a guy who's like, I don't know, 30 centimeters taller than them, which is just ridiculous. Because I had a couple of experiences, and it's not good. in either way, it's like it doesn't really work out. So anyway, that's a side tangent, because it's something that hit me, that and it's the same. It's same with it's just like with fitness. It's like, here's a quick fix on how to attract women, or here's 14-day transformation that's gonna make you whatever. It's like, no one is selling, here's how to, I mean, aside from Jordan Peterson, here's how to get your life in order without actually focusing on women, and attract women as a side effect of you actually being a valuable person and an attracting mate due to your own qualities. No, it's like, here's how to lie, twist and bend your words, and how to manipulate women into sleeping with you. That's pretty much the default spiel of every pickup artist that you or dating expert you see online.
Yeah, actually, just on our last podcast, there was a comment. Maybe I can actually pull it up now real quick. Let me open it now. Let's see. So, on accepting you're not good enough, I guess I should accept that I'm at 5'9", which is 175 centimeters. So, like, it's not short per se.
175?
175.
Yeah, that's decent.
Yeah. I mean, that's totally decent. It's not tall, but it's also not short. Like, if someone is 175, people would not be referring you to as Jimmy. Who is Jimmy? You know, that short guy. Like, that wouldn't happen. I'm just not good enough for 90% of women, which includes a lot of women much shorter than 5'9". Most women are interested in only the 14% body fat men. Or no, sorry. That's just my default. So women are only interested in only the 14% of men who are over 6 feet. Oh, fuck, then I'm not over 6. Well, I guess technically I am over 6 feet.
Yeah.
So I guess at least 86% of men should also just accept that the vast majority of women are out of their league. And I responded to him and said, I would say success matters much more than height. Silly question, but do you think that 5'9" Johnny Depp is out of most women's league? And I really mean that. I mean, that's kind of a lucky thing that men have on their side, is that they can make up for physical limitations with like inner qualities or existential qualities much more so than women. And this is and by the way, that's I think that's great from both ends. I think it's great that men have that opportunity, and I think it's also great that women are that way because you sort of touched on this in the last episode, but guys are shitting on women for like, oh my gosh, she's a gold digger, she's looking for guys with money. But man, I think that's actually a lot better than us guys only looking for women with a nice ass or with big boobs or whatever. Like, that's a lot more shallow in a way. Like, at least the guy who has money is likely having that money because of other qualities that he has. He worked for it, displays more willpower than most men, more conscientiousness, this and that. So at least the women is attracted indirectly to these inner traits. So yeah, I think that's kind of a nice side benefit. And I have something to say about the pickup artist industry, but do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that's a silly way to approach things, especially since you can't really change it. And as far as what you said, yeah, I mean, so like I said last time, women try to pick from the top of the hierarchy, and height is one, and other things are also important. So yeah, I mean, just being tall is not gonna make up for your other defects. So at the same time, being short isn't that sentence. So I had some other thoughts, but I somehow lost them. So go on, and they probably come up to me.
Yeah, I mean, and just one thing to keep in mind. So again, this comes back to I'm so glad that I'm almost 30, and I just realized that I'm a lot more calm. When I was younger, I was always looking at the things that I was deficient in, and I looked at other people who had more success in the areas I wanted to be successful in, and I wasn't. And if they had some of those traits that I felt like I was lacking, I was always trying to blame their success or my lack of success on that, and I use that as like confirmation. So like, don't get me wrong, like I'm hair over 6 foot technically, so I'm 183 and a half centimeters. So but I would love to be 188, so 6'2" or 6'3". Like, I would love that. Maybe less so now because I'm into like lifting and everything, and squatting and leg pressing would be even more difficult. But I would love to be taller. I would love to have a better head of hair. I would love to have a lot of things. And when I was younger, I already had these thoughts. But then when I saw a guy who was more successful with women or socially or anything, I was like, you see, that guy is 5 centimeters taller than me. That's why. And of course, I ignored all the guys who were like 3 inches shorter than me, who were also more successful. But that's just how I was looking at the world. And I think it's important to get out of this mindset. I'm so glad that I'm not in that mindset anymore. But yeah, just a word on the whole pickup artist industry. Honestly, I was sort of following that for a while. I was following some figures on YouTube that were big who are into the whole like dating market. And honestly, I stopped because I got so disillusioned by the whole thing. Because I don't know, it's probably a defect of mine or something, but I was always looking. I'm kind of like Ted Mosby from How I Met Your Mother. I was always looking for like serious relationships, which doesn't, like, I had lots of relationships which didn't end up being serious, and you could classify them as like, flings or even one night stands or whatever. But for the most part, I was like, yeah, like when I sat down for a date with someone, I was like, yeah, I really hope that this turns into something serious. Like, I hope this is my future wife. I know it's unlikely, but that was my hope. And then sometimes I would get into a relationship and I would watch videos on this. And I got so disappointed that all of these videos ended up being like, so look, man, if you want girls to sleep with you, or you have to do this and that to get that girl to sleep with you. And I'm like, man, like, that's your end game? Seriously? Like, this is what it's all about? And like, I might sound like a grandpa now, but to me, like, that's and maybe this is again my own perspective, and for others it's a much bigger issue, but I really developed the mindset pretty early on that if you have like freaking two brain cells and you don't look like freaking Quasimodo, like you will figure that shit out. Like, yeah, you can get a one night stand, it's not freaking rocket science. But to actually hold on to like a quality girl who is, you know, up or higher than you in terms of levels of intelligence, whatever, a lot of these values, to hold on to that person and to make a relationship work, man, like that's a far bigger challenge than hitting a home run in a club. So I got really disillusioned, not to mention all these like pickup videos where they are having these conversations with these girls, and man, these conversations just seem so fake. Like the tonality, like the topics they are talking about is so cringeworthy to me. I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes I'm being asked, my youngsters, quote unquote, as if I'm old, but 19, 20 years old, whatever, like what's my game, or how do I pick up women? And I'm like, I don't have a game. I just, go and talk to them and, try to be as authentic as I can be. And some are attracted to that, some are not. And the ones who are not are, are welcome to not be. And it is what it is. But yeah, I was the same way. I don't think I ever went into, like, I don't like the idea of one night stands. I don't know, it's, okay, this might be weird because I'm sure that if I met someone who's like, I have a couple of these quote unquote crushes, Insta girls who I see, and I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ. Like, yeah, if one of those like came up to me like, would you like to, have some late night cardio, I'd be like, hell yeah. But, aside from that, like with our, or person I met, I never just went to like, oh, this is we're gonna have sex and then we're never gonna meet again. It always was like, well, see where this goes. And yeah, usually didn't go too long, but it went for a couple of months. But like you said, I never went into the idea. I'm not one of those guys who are like, well, I'm gonna bang you tomorrow, then I have another one for Saturday, and so on and so forth. It's not my style, and I don't know, I still like to feel that sense of, I don't know if closeness is the word, but sex is definitely better if there is a bit more than just, physical attraction. Don't get me wrong, physical attraction is important, but it's a necessary but not sufficient requirement, basically. It's how I would word it. So, for example, again, I think I mentioned this last time as well, or maybe in that episode you ended up deleting, so might as well rehash it or re-mention it. Like smoking, for example. Whatever, I don't care. Like, I lost my mojo a couple of times. Like, basically, we're having sex and it's just, gone. And, I usually talk about it, and I don't, the most awkward thing you can do, because a friend of mine, it happened to him as well, and I was like, dude, I was so ashamed. And I was like, okay, so what did you say? It was like, nothing. I was like, that's the worst thing you can do. But anyway, so I was thinking that, what could have been the reasons, and one commonality I found, two girls who this has happened, both were smokers, and I'm not sure if that is the reason why, but I know that it's a reason, because I guess so turned off by the smell of smoke. So I was talking with I wouldn't call him a friend because he pissed me off a couple of days ago, and he's just a jerk. Acquaintance is a better word, from the gym, and I mentioned this to him, that I don't like women who smoke, and like, oh, well, you're so arrogant. And I'm like, what? And he was like, well, you don't have faults, like, yeah, it's a defect or whatever, but everyone has their own. And I'm like, dude, I'm not judging them as a person. It's, I don't like the smell. I don't want to be with someone who smokes, and that's it. They are free to smoke as much as they want, as long as it's not with me, And it's ridiculous that somehow you're a bad guy because it's silly, because I also mentioned I'm pretty selective as well. So, and again, this might be one of those things where you say, well, you can afford to be selective, but whatever. To me, that's each to their standards. It's like, I don't know, women have this idea that guys will sleep with any woman whatsoever, and it's only women who are actually selective when it comes to mating partners, and that's not the case. I mean, yeah, if you if you can barely get any woman, then yeah, you can't really afford to be. And that's, by the way, that's another. I will let you speak, but that's another thing that pisses me off when. So I'm talking with a guy who are quote unquote picky, but they are just idiots. Because you know the type of guy who will find a defect in any woman. You show them someone. Oh well, her nose is too big, or oh well, her boobs are starting to sag, or oh she's too short, or she's too fat, or she's too muscular, or she's too this and too that. And I'm like, okay, then you can continue to masturbate in the night. Every night looking at Pornhub or whatever you'd like to do instead of having, an actual relationship with a woman. But hey, sure, you go ahead and pretend that you're too good for them.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, man, I could do an entire episode just talking about the awkward moments when I lost my mojo in in sexual situations. Again, like it's, I remember the first time it happened when I was 18 years old. Man, like it was like in a classic movie scene. I was just like
American Pie.
Well, and not that kind of movie. It was one of those like dramatic scenes where the guy's sitting on the bedside, chewing on his nails, like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. It never happened before. I don't know what happened. And the girl is just sitting there in silence and doesn't know what to say. It was, I'm still getting chills.
It's worse when she starts crying.
Oh, honestly, it would have been good because then I would have known that she's like blaming herself or something and doesn't think that I'm a cripple, Yeah, but I mean, these things happen. But again, it comes back to the whole libido thing. So I know some guys with whom like it could never actually happen unless they actually have a physical problem that day or something. Yeah. Because like they could, like I met some guys in like whatever. Went out together or something, and I was just like sitting there chilling and whatever, and they were like just constantly talking about like, oh man, when could we find some girls? Like I heard that in these places there are girls, and I was like, man, like sure, like I'm because I was not 20 anymore. I was maybe like 26 or 27 or something. And it's like, yeah, sure, I understand that you're, and also I was in a relationship at that point, but I was thinking about, man. If I was single, sure, I would be interested in meeting girls, but it wouldn't be like the center of my life. That if tonight I don't meet some girls, then I'm gonna die. But they were like, no, like I have to. So I had the feeling that, man, if these guys walked past like a pole on the street with a female poster on it, they would like hump it on the spot.
Yeah. So that's how people tell or relate, or that's how people. Say that's what it feels like to be on trampoline, for example. They say that you're constantly horny and basically your libido is through the roof and this and that. Of course, trend is horrible, so don't take it. But yeah, I'm actually genuinely enthusiastic about the prospect of going on TRT and experiencing that for the first time, because I've had brief moments, but it's been usually very short-lived, and it's usually been for a specific woman. So if I had someone, who I was really, really attracted to, and I was really enthusiastic about, having sex with her for the first time or something, or if it was someone who was, the experience was really, really pleasant and really liked it, then yeah, I was. Other than that, yeah, I'm the same way. I'm like, whatever. Like, it's not like I wake up in the night and, oh my goodness, I haven't had sex in 3.4 days, and oh my God, I'm gonna have to, find some sooner. It's like a drug addict who is missing his drug, and yeah, some people are like that. And I would say one, good for them, and two, make sure you find a partner who is actually on the same wavelength, because that's something again that people don't really consider. They consider a lot of things. Oh, well, you have to be compatible with your partner, but it's like even on the sexual sphere, it's like. It's the same way. I mean, the big five personality traits, and if, for example, you're much more orderly than your partner, or they are, and you like to leave your things all around the apartment, and they don't, then that's gonna end up in fights really, really fast. And it's the same with sex. It's like if you want to have sex like 4 times a month, and this girl wants to have 4 times a day, or the other way around, it's not good. And I've had both. I actually had, partners who were like, well, whatever. If we have sex once a week, it's fine. But if you don't, then it's fine as well. And I also had, someone who's been like, basically, she could have had it, 4 times a day if I wanted to. So.
Yeah. If I have one of those periods, because I would say I'm very average on that front. So like you, I had periods, but like I almost have random days every once in a while where I feel like, man, what the hell is happening to me? Like literally, I cannot think about anything else. I can barely fall asleep at night.
Yeah.
I'm dreaming about it, So it just consumes my everything. And then I have periods when I'm like, it just doesn't even cross my mind. So it just kind of hit and miss, and I don't know what that comes down to, but and my girlfriend is very accommodating to both of my states, which I feel very blessed about it. I had one girlfriend, like in my early 20s, who was like very demanding, and it was rough, not just because, so basically I couldn't keep up with her, but the problem was that she took it like very personally when I was not into it, and I had times when I almost feel like I was maybe like abused is a strong word. I don't want to make it into a bigger deal than what it is, but like I was like really emotionally pressured into the thing, and it was like a struggle, and we were not living together, so I was like almost looking forward to her leaving so that I could like relax and don't have to deal with this. So like that was not cool. So it's definitely a factor, but to get back on the whole pickup artist thing for a second, like I almost feel like, to give like a fitness analogy, a lot of these pickup artist programs and their message is basically like the fad diet. Like get super lean in 30 days, or lose this and that much weight in 30 days equivalent of the dating market. So
I said this earlier as well.
Or did you say it now during the podcast?
I said that it's basically a quick fix. It's the equivalent of.
Sorry, didn't mean to steal your line.
It's okay. I'm glad we agree.
Because like, what does it take to lose 30 pounds in 30 days or 60 days or whatever? Yeah, I mean, you can do that with like a water fast or a juice fast or something like that. But what does it take to maintain your weight loss? Like that requires you to change. To change your lifestyle, change the way you look at the world, you interact with people, socially, dealing with social pressure, all of those things. Change of identity. And similarly, what does it take to hit a home run from a club? Yeah, man, I mean, you can, if you're a guy, you can walk in there, buy a whole bunch of like fake Armani stuff or fake branded stuff. I don't know, rent out a car and pretend that you're like some billionaire, whatever. And maybe you will find some shallow chick and you can pick her up. But what does it take to hold on to someone? It's not going to happen unless you change as a person and you become someone that's worth it to stay with. So, unfortunately, a lot of parallels here. And like with any industry, I'm sure it's the same in like the business. I
mean, just look at the crypto shit recently. Everyone suddenly wants to become, what's the word? A crypto investor. Everyone is a stock market expert, and it's the same thing. I mean, people now that they notice that, hey, crypto has been, on the upwards trajectory, it's too late. It's unfortunate that you're pretty much 5 years late to the game. But everyone wants to make a quick home run, a quick buck, or whatever. And usually, especially in the investment thing, by the time mere mortals hear about it, it's usually 3 to 5 years too late. So
yeah, it's I had the same thing with, so I don't know, I attended some like conferences and stuff where it was mainly about fitness, but then maybe there was one guy who was also talking about like business and making money and this and that way. And I was at the conference, so I said it through or came across something online, and I always had it in the back of my mind, like, okay, like everything he says sounds good, but am I dealing with like the business equivalent of lose 30 pounds in 30 days, or is this legit? Like I don't know, because I'm not deep enough into that whole thing. But for all I know, it could be like one of those fad bullshits. So it's man, it's definitely tough.
And again, just I don't want to toot his horn, but like Jordan Peterson's advice is actually better than any pickup artist you will find if you actually want to become a better, more attractive man than instead of being a pickup artist, which I fucking hate that term. And so again, if your goal is to manipulate women into sleeping with you, then go ahead. If your goal is to actually find a partner or someone to have a life with, or even a nice long-term relationship or whatever, and even if you just want casual sex, okay, then you can do that and not have to pretend you're someone who you're not, or lie to them, or create this fake persona or this and that. It's like, I mean, like I said, people try to project what you said about this former girlfriend of yours and her being offended or taken personally. People feel like, or they have this notion that everything someone else does is because of them. And I'm sure that sometimes that's the case. Like if you're an idiot and the other person is upset, yeah, it could be because you are an idiot. But more often than not, it's something that happened to them earlier and it has nothing to do with you. Or if, like you said, if your boyfriend doesn't want to have sex with you 7 days a week, maybe because that's just how he's wired, quote unquote, or he's just going through a more stressful period and sex isn't on his priority list or whatever. I mean, and the obvious answer that most people neglect is communication, actually bringing up the topic, not hiding it under the rug, actually, bringing it up and having two adults sitting down for a conversation about it. And if it's really something that bothers you or annoys you, that try to get it out as soon as possible, because otherwise it will just, grow and become a dragon and will eat up all of your existence. So that's not good. So again, this is if I will leave this in the recommended resource notes. But Jordan has this clip called "Slaying the Dragons Within," and it's fantastic. I really, really highly recommend it. And there is one segment where he reads a children's story and he explains it. And at one point, this child says, "So why did the dragon have to grow so big?" And the mother, I think, responds, "Maybe he just wanted to be noticed, get noticed." It's like, yeah, that's the issue. That's exactly the deal with problems. If you don't notice them on time, they just become bigger and bigger and bigger, and they become a dragon. And dragons are easier to slay when they are smaller. So yeah, any issues you have, it's better to or actually it's not better, it's the solution is to talk about it.
Yeah, so since we already talked 36 minutes about girls and dating and sex and whatever, would you be up to having the conversation online, which we had in private, about me dating my girlfriend who is not into working out and what the significance of that is to us and stuff like that? Because I think that would be interesting for the listeners as well to hear our different takes on that. Yeah, so just to give some background for everybody.
If you don't mind, I mean, it's your girlfriend, not mine.
No. So we had this conversation with Andrei, and we had a little bit of an argument over this. I mean, granted, when he said this to me, I was already like wound up about it, because someone said something very similar to me, and I didn't take it well at the time because I felt that it was kind of insensitive, but whatever, I got over it. But it also forced me to think about this more and to really put my values and the way I'm viewing this whole situation to the test and really question myself, like, why do I think about it the way I do? But basically the gist of it was, so my girlfriend is not into fitness, basically not the least bit. Like basically she's the average person who doesn't want to let her go too much, so she won't let herself get like too fat, whatever, has some semblance of responsibility when it comes to eating, but she is not exercising, she's not working out, whatever. And to me that's not a deal breaker. In fact, to me it's not even a consideration. And András, you said that for you this would be like a no-go. So like that would be an exclusion criteria basically. So yeah, like outline your stance and then I will get into my stance.
Yes. By the way, but towards the end of the discussion, we sort of came to the same conclusion. It was from different points of view. So for me, if I am to be with someone in a long-term relationship, I would want them to be interested in the same lifestyle I live. Now, I wouldn't want them to be, I wouldn't require them to be to the same extent. I don't think that's reasonable and don't think that's necessary. But at the same time, I wouldn't want them to, disregard it completely. Honestly, at this point, I want to say it's an exclusive. It's a criteria of exclusion, with the caveat that they would have to be interested in actually, giving it a shot, basically. So if you don't have to already be lifting or whatever, just to, for me to be interested in you, but I would like for you to, the notion of actually going to the gym to be attractive or to be interested in trying it out. Because for me, it goes way beyond just the attractiveness. And like I said, the attractiveness part is very important. And I think people, again, go to the extremes with that. Either they disregard it completely, it's like, well, it's only on the inside is what matters, which I think is silly. Or they say, you have to be really, really hot otherwise. And nah, I think you have to be attracted to the person you're with, and you have to be attracted to it, not your friends, not your mother, not your parents, no one. And you have to be the one. I actually, it's whatever. Since I'm into lifting, I like women who are muscular to, within natural realms. So don't think about, enhanced women. I'm not attracted to that. But, I like a girl who has some muscle definition and that sort of stuff. And beyond that, beyond the physical attractiveness, for me, if that person is also interested in the health and fitness aspect, then she will also be one more open or more understanding towards my own lifestyle preferences. So for example, I don't like to go out in clubs, I don't like to party, I don't like to drink too much. I like drink some red wine here and then, but I don't smoke, like I said earlier. So I feel like, if someone is not understanding towards that, then that's the no-go. And then further on, it's also good insurance basically for long term, because like I said last time or 2 episodes ago, whenever it was, like your current habits determine your trajectory much more than your current situation. So just funny because actually yesterday I saw a photo of one of my old college classmates or wherever she was, and I remember having a conversation with her in first year, so basically in 2013, 8 years ago or 7 years ago, something like that. And she was bragging of, why do I have to go to gym? Look how good I look right now. And I was like, yeah, for now. But if you don't do anything, believe me, in 8 to 10 years, you won't look like that. And I saw a picture of her, and unfortunately, I was right. I mean, she's not overweight. She's starting to be a bit chubby, but you can always already, and she's 26, you can already see the signs of, basically someone who doesn't train, doesn't do any physical activity whatsoever. It's like, if you continue on the same road for another 5 years, you will start to lose muscle mass. And again, this goes way beyond just physical attractiveness. This goes then into, health and longevity and potentially, sarcopenia down the line and that sort of stuff. So that's basically my key ideas. Like, one, I would want someone who shares my lifestyle, understands it, partakes in it to some extent, and also someone who doesn't, I wouldn't say interfere with it, but simply, I don't want my girlfriend to be another obstacle, quote unquote. So for example, I wouldn't or couldn't live with someone who, like, in theory, sure, you can say that, oh, well, my girlfriend can eat her junk food and I can eat my healthy foods and no big deal. But, in practice, it is a big deal because either I'm going to get pissed off that why do you have this tempting food in my house when I'm trying to diet, for example, which I understand is my diet, is not hers, but still at the same time is making my life harder than it needs to be. And two, she will get fed up with the fact that, oh, well, you don't, it's not like I'm this fucking, clean eating monk or whatever, because far from it. But still, I don't like to have junk food constantly around me, and I don't like to eat junk food constantly. I mean, I do like to eat it, but it's not beneficial to my goals, so I try to limit it as much as possible. So in that sense, I would get the sense that my girlfriend would be fed up with me. That why don't you have some chips with me while we're watching the movies? Or why do you always have to eat your protein stuff? Why do you have to eat your fruits and this and that? So those are the barriers I feel like I would encounter. Again, aside from the fact that I just like I like girls with a big of a booty.
So there's a lot of aspects to this. I will reflect on the what you said about kind of future considerations a bit at the end, because that's a separate consideration, which I think that is definitely a valid one. But I think my stance on this really comes from my life experience regarding this whole dating, being in relationships thing, and just the perspective that I developed. So I got into fitness from the first moment. I was always kind of lonely with this whole endeavor. So I never really had friends that were into lifting. Like, András, you, Dave, like you're some of my like first people that I would consider to be like friends that we like talk regularly and whatever, like on a daily basis pretty much, and are into lifting. And all of that happened online. In person, like my best friends, family members, girls that I dated, like none of them were into fitness. Like some of them were a bit more health conscious than others, but none of them went to the gym regularly, for example. Like the most sporty people that I knew were those that played soccer sometimes with their group of friends sometimes. So like that's how it starts for me. So from like in college, when I was doing internships abroad, the fact that I was alone with this and that I had to work around others, and basically the best that I could accept from or expect from people was that they accepted me with what I was doing was always my default assumption. So like this is where I come from basically. So when I meet someone, whether it's a friend or a girl that I want to date, my obvious assumption is that he or she is not into fitness. So if we're going to be friends, they will have to tolerate me and I will have to work around them. So that's where I come from. So, and on top of that, I had a lot of experiences over the years where I was almost bullied with this whole thing. So I was dealing with a lot of social pressure, people that were not accepting, who were making fun of me for eating the way I was eating. I had my Tupperware container. They came over and were examining my foods. I pretty much got into some habits of like hiding my food, and like I'm pretty sure at certain times I like locked myself into toilets to eat my food in peace, wow. which is really messed up. But I completely understand why I did it, and probably I would do it again because I was feeling so uncomfortable with the constant like mocking and like almost bullying. So with that perspective now, the only expectation I have of people regarding this whole thing is to leave me in peace. So don't make me feel like an alien. Don't make me feel ridiculous for doing the things that I'm doing. Just let me be. And what you're putting in your own mouth and what you're doing in your free time with exercising is your own damn business. Now, so that's one thing. The other aspect is the dating itself. And like I said, I was always looking for like girls that I could date for not for extended periods. I was always looking for the one. You could kind of frame it that way. And I've had tons of encounters with girls where they were really attractive, whatever, sex was good, but we were just not matching as a personality. We could just not have good conversations. Or maybe we could have good conversations, but when I was making some of those snarky jokes that I like to make, they could just not handle it. They got offended by it and they started yelling and whatever. So, okay, this relationship is not gonna last. A lot of heartbreaks because of things like this. So the things that I got to value over time more than anything, beyond physical attraction. So obviously that has to be there. Otherwise it won't work. Like, you won't get your foot in the door unless you're attracted to the person. But beyond that, when I found that, oh, wow, like we can actually have good conversations. Like, this girl actually likes my humor and she responds to it with her own humor, which I also like. Oh my God, this is amazing. And then, a lot of things that you only discover over time. So when I got together with my girlfriend, who is my girlfriend today, hopefully future wife, I thought that she would be like a very extroverted person because she's very social, this and that. So I had that fear in the back of my mind that, well, I'm much more introverted than that. Like, I don't want to go out socializing every other day. I don't want to go to a bar every other day, maybe not even every week. And when I found that she was okay with that, it was like, oh my God, even this is working? That's amazing. So, and she really let me be in peace with what I was doing. So she was never giving me a hard time. And even over time, she would come over for lunch, or, well, she would come over to my place and it's like, hey, do you want to have lunch? I was like, could we prepare something like healthy? I'm on a diet. So like, could we make some, I don't know, salad and I don't know, maybe some salmon? It's like, yeah, sure, no problem. And she made this amazing dish, which was like healthy and fit my diet. And we could have a great lunch together. So like all of these things, which were kind of qualifying as, like, this is going to work long term with my fitness endeavors. And I didn't examine it like intentionally or like very attentively. It's just like kind of all happened. So at this point, of course, all else being equal, if all of this was in place, plus she came and worked out with me, and we could go to the gym together, and we didn't have to make some arrangements when we do something on the weekends, and it would be like, okay, whatever, we will meet this and that time, and but first we will hit a workout together, and then we will go to this restaurant. It would be a lot more pleasant. But I almost consider that to be like a bonus at this point. And also logistically, since I really don't know many people, like all the people that I know who are into working out are either online or people from the actual gym. So I feel like, and maybe this is a cultural thing, so maybe in the US or where you're living, maybe even in Hungary, I don't know, it's different. But I feel like if I actually wanted to find someone who is into working out, I would literally have to date in the gym, which is like a pretty small sample. So I would really have to hope that the person that I find there is also compatible with me intellectually, sense of humor, and on all of those other realms. So basically, that's my perspective. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I have three main points. One, obviously, your point of view and perspective is shaped by your own experience, as everyone else's is. So I feel like one, like you said, I hugely agree with this, is cultural. So probably in Macedonia, that's not a big, the gym culture isn't that big just yet. One or aside from that, or secondary to that, I think it's probably an age thing as well, because I'm sure that even I honestly would be, right now I wish I was born like 5 years later, because for many reasons, but one of the reasons is because these days, like honestly, like in the 18, like I was the same way, like in high school I knew exactly 3 girls who were going to the gym in all of fucking high school. That's a lot of children. Like 2 of them were in the class next to us, and they were going to the same gym I was, and there was another bigger older girl who was in the 12th grade. We were in 9th, I think. Yeah, so she was the third one, and yeah, basically it was non-existent. I mean, I knew a couple of guys who went to the gym. That was it. I was, like you said, I was it's very very.
The train coming.
Train wreck.
Yeah.
So I was a very, very big exception or minority. I was in a very small minority of people who were going to the gym back then. But these days it's much more common. So I feel like that's the second point I wanted to bring up. I work in the gym, so I see a lot of people well, a lot is relative, but fairly decent size of people, number of people. And honestly, there's a lot of super young, like 14, 15, 16-year-old boys and girls who are coming to the gym. So it's becoming a trend over here, because everyone is now starting to buy Gymshark and this and that. So I see more and more of these small businesses popping up, selling gym apparel, mostly to women, tights and stuff. So yeah, I definitely think it's a bigger trend over here. And the second point I wanted to bring up was the local thing. So that's, and the fact that I work in a gym. So I mostly met women there or meet women there, but even if I meet them, it's either through mutual friends and they know where I work, or if I meet them on Tinder, I will often propose them to come over for a workout. It's basically 2 in 1. I don't have to go out, and to I actually get to bring them to the gym. And I definitely haven't been this way. Like, I get your struggle in college. I wasn't that way either. But in 2016, when I met my girlfriend, who I was 3 years with, I think I mentioned this to you. She wasn't into working out either, and I basically mentioned to her that, listen, what I said earlier, it's this is an important thing to me, and if you want to partake in it, that's fine. If not, that's also fine, but then, we're gonna have to find someone else for each other. And she decided to do. But now I've seen some photos of her, and she's fat again. So 3 years of me, mentoring her apparently wasn't enough. So maybe there's a lesson in that if someone isn't attracted, But I wasn't forcing her. Like, I just gave her an option. I made her, an offer she couldn't refuse, to quote that line from The Godfather. So, and the third and final point I wanted to mention is these, no, I don't know if biases, but these old ideas, or what's the term? My brain isn't working today. These myths, or, these notions that, well, what you said, I completely agree. It's not like, don't get me wrong, it's not like, going to the gym is the first criteria. Of course, I'm the same way. I make sex jokes all the time. Like I said, because, guys ask me, how do I pick up women? I don't pick them up. I have conversations, I make jokes, and there's a girl who I like her, she likes me, the way we look, but she's not into the whole sex jokes thing, and I don't feel like we would work out, because if she's not interested right now, probably she wouldn't be later on either. So yeah, that's one thing, that my sense of humor is a bit, and I also like these dark jokes and whatever. So same way, if we are not vibing, quote unquote, or we don't have a shared interest, then it's unfortunate. But I don't think that this is mutually exclusive. And like I said, I feel for you, the fact that I had the same way. I was made fun of by colleagues who were, classmates, whatever, who were smoking. They were like, "Oh, you're eating protein bar. Don't you know that's not good for you?" And I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ. But honestly, these days, it's not that big of a deal. Honestly, it's more people. It's become basically a norm, I guess, or it's become definitely accepted that you're interested in health and fitness. So you're not viewed as a pariah anymore. That's the good thing. And like I said earlier, I don't feel this is mutually exclusive. A woman doesn't have to be, because women have the same idea of guys. Oh, if you're muscular, you're probably dumb. Like, I actually heard this former client, when I broke up with my girlfriend, she was looking at, he was looking through his list of Facebook friends, and he was like, well, there are these girls who are, I think, single, and I'm friends with them. Let's see if you like either of them. And he sent them my pic, and one of them literally said this: "Oh, he looks attractive, but he's muscular, so he's into lifting weights. He's probably dumb." And I was like, way to judge me before before knowing me. So these are just these preconceptions or preconceived notions that we have to get past. So I don't think that having a girlfriend who is on the same wavelength as you, has the same interest, or going to the gym with you, or interested in fitness, are mutually exclusive. I think you can find both.
Oh no. I'm not saying that either. I'm just saying that, for me, finding that girl who is on the same wavelength and whatever, like all of those things that I mentioned, was really hard for me over time. So
Here's the thing, just one thing, and I will let you speak. In the long term, for example, for me, this is important. If I were to come, because this is what I mentioned back then in 2016 too, because I mentioned this to there's a college, whatever, and he was like, "Oh, you're such a jerk," and I'm like, "Why?" Because I told her that this was important. What should I have done? Continue with our relationship that way, and then, 6 months, a year down the line, be unhappy with the way she looks and then either cheat on her because I didn't like her looks, or break up a year later and basically waste a year when I could have told her from the start. So that's the way I feel like if I drop my standards, quote unquote, and you can disagree with this, I give in, or I renounce to my preferences, let's put it that way, for someone, because if I say drop my standards, sounds a bit harsh. So if I change my preferences for someone who I'm compatible with on other or in other areas, in the long term, I feel like this would be an issue. So again, Jordan, like, he had a Q&A. Yeah, I watch a lot of his content. He had a Q&A and he was laughing. Basically, the question was, I love my girlfriend, but she's basically fat, and how do I tell her that without without offending her or something like that? And Jordan said the same thing. It was like, listen, you're attracted to what you're attracted to. You can't change that. And if this is an issue right now and you don't tell her that, it's gonna be an issue later, and you're either gonna be unsatisfied and remain with her, or unhappy, or you're gonna cheat on her, or you're gonna break up with her. So that's why I say that if we work out in other areas, I would much rather bring this up early on. And listen, I have this particularity in mind. I would like to be with someone who shares the gym life with me to some extent. Now, I don't want you to come 6 days a week, but I would like to come 2 to 3 times per week, something like that. If you do not feel that that's reasonable, then it is what it is. Moving on.
Yeah, I mean, so you're bringing up kind of two separate issues there, I think. So basically physical attraction, like that cannot wane too much. So, and this is something I told to my girlfriend, like, look, I'm not expecting you to work out or whatever, but don't let yourself go. Like, that's kind of an unwritten rule in the beginning of every relationship. Like, we met in a certain way, we looked a certain way, whatever. Like, certain things can happen. I know that at age 50 you won't look like as how you look like at 25, and I won't either. But don't, like, this is gonna be very politically
maybe you look better.
Yeah, so basically, this is how I phrase it to her. Like, please don't turn into a sloppy cow by the time you're 40. This is what I told her, because this is what you see all the time in relationships. Like, the guy and a girl are, like, super hot and whatever when they get together, and 10 years later, they're like, man, like, they just downgrade themselves so much, and there is no physical attraction in the relationship anymore. And those are the marriages and whatever where there is, like, no sex anymore. So I don't want that to happen to us. So, like, and this I told her. So yeah, that would be a deal breaker. And if she all of a sudden she let herself go completely. But I feel like that's more of a nutritional consideration. So of course working out helps. I'm not saying that it doesn't. Of course it helps you to whatever get tighter skin and this and that. But just don't let yourself go, basically. So that is an expectation that I have. So in the case of you and your girlfriend, so yeah, I could see myself giving an ultimatum, like, look, please, like, make a change. Like, this like, I'm losing attraction gradually. So don't let this escalate anymore, because, like, this will be a problem. We are too young for this to happen. Maybe at age 70 or whatever, sure, like, you can let yourself go a little bit. Maybe I won't be functioning sexually anyway by then. So whatever, but don't do this to me. So that's one thing. But specifically going to the gym and working out, and don't get me wrong, I didn't give up hope on that completely. So I hope that some of what I'm doing will rub off on her. But if it doesn't, as long as she doesn't let herself go, like, diet-wise or in whatever ways, but she can maintain a shape that I'm physically attracted to, then that is good enough for me, basically. So that's my perspective there. And of course, going to the gym and being into fitness and being on the same wavelength are not mutually exclusive, far from it. But I would say you're narrowing the criteria for that. So it's almost like, I don't know. Again, we'll try to come up with a really bad analogy, but let's say that you've had a really hard time. You're living in the desert and you've been searching for fresh water, and finally you find a source of fresh water, and then you're pissed off because like you only want the lemon flavored water. Like when over time I found it really hard to find just people, period, that were on the same wavelength as me. And especially finding a dating partner, romantic partner who is on the same wavelength, I feel like narrowing the criteria of like, okay, I have to be physically attracted. Okay, check. We have to be on the same wavelength intellectually and sense of humor, conversations, all of those things. And you have to go to the gym at least 2 times a week. Man, I feel like, I would probably be searching for the right person for the next 10 years. So it's like I view working out and these things as like me liking Manchester United games. Like watching their games on the weekends is important to me. So if my girlfriend was giving me a hard time about that, or it's like, no, like I wanted to go to this club or something, or I wanted to bring you over to my family, you cannot watch that this weekend, that would be a problem. But I don't expect her to sit there with me and cheer for Manchester United every time they play. So kind of the same way as I'm viewing working out. Like, let me be in peace, maintain physical attraction for me, don't let yourself go. You going to the gym, that's a bonus for me. That's basically how I'm looking at it.
Yeah, so I guess we have our differences, and that's completely fine. Maybe I give it too much of an emphasis, but okay, this is again gonna probably sound pretty incorrect to some people, but we both know how much I care about that. So here's the way I view it. Like I mentioned this a couple of times, so I'm gonna say it again. When my first girlfriend left me, I was 15 or something. I had this insecurity about myself that it was because I was fat, and I promised myself that I would never, ever, ever, ever let myself get to a point where I would have this in my mind, like, did she leave me because I was fat? Yeah, so I did, and I did something about it. So the way I view it is simple. I invested 10 years into my health and fitness. Again, I didn't do this for women. I don't do it for women. However, as a side effect, I feel like I look, and maybe not at this moment, but especially for this summer, I'm gonna look much better than most guys out there. So if I do that, if I invest so much into myself, I don't feel like it is too much to ask from my partner to also invest a minimum into herself. Again, I'm not saying for her to invest the same amount. I don't want her, let's say I'm going to be at 10% body, for example, I don't want her to be at 14% body fat or be a competitive figure athlete or whatever. But, don't be 32% body fat and never lift the weights in your life and, have a flat ass and this and that. And maybe, again, this is shallow. Maybe it's me being short-sighted, whatever.
But you're sorry to interrupt, but you're like, I feel like you're conflating again, like being fat and being into working out, like as if it's the same thing. Like you can look like a reasonably fit person and not go to the gym. I feel like those can be separate.
Yeah, but then you have to do some other sport. Like, again, okay, this was probably too much. Okay, I don't want her to lift weights specifically. I want her to be active, but most women do not do sports. Most women do sports in their teens, in high school and stuff. Like, if she is into competitive, if she's, I don't know, a soccer player or a volley player or whatever, fine, but it's not gonna happen. So I use the gym as a, shortcut to being in physical shape, basically.
And what if so let's assume you have a girl who looks exactly the way you want her to look. So boobs, ass, thighs, overall shape.
Go to the gym?
She doesn't go to the gym, but she looks exactly the way you would want her to
yeah,
look.
But that's the thing. That's due to youth, and this is what I mentioned as well. Like, yeah, that shit is awesome for a while, but it's not gonna last. So genetics are gonna carry you for a while. But I know guys in my gym who have fantastic genetics, and they do the bare minimum, and they're already starting to fade. So if you have been blessed from nature to have a fantastic ass and toned muscles, quote unquote, without working out, I don't think that's gonna carry on beyond your 30s. So That's why that's what I was saying, that if you want to rely on your genetics, and I mentioned this to a girl as well yesterday, because she said that she needed to hear this, and I was like, entropy is only one. I mean, physics, the universe only tends towards one direction, and it's disorder. So, order requires energy. Chaos basically created spontaneously just to due to existence. So entropy is not gonna take care. Your body is gonna start to slowly fall apart if you don't do something about it. Again, this goes into the long-term aspect of it, because if we're gonna have, like, believe me, if I wanted to have casual sex with someone, I'm not gonna be like, you're gonna have to train for 6 months before we have sex. No, this is for someone who's gonna be my long-term girlfriend / wife.
Okay, so basically your concern is what's the future trajectory. It's all good now, but what if she becomes your wife, and then what's gonna happen when she's 40? And then, so it's better that she hops on the train now, so that by the time things start declining, she's ahead of the game. Basically, that's your
Yeah,
concern?
I mean, it's the same. Yeah, basically, I mean, it's the same way with people in general. It's like how the best way to avoid age-related losses in muscle mass and strength. Start strength training as early as possible. Gain, have a spare or a reservoir of extra muscle mass. So even if you lose a bit due to old age, you are already ahead of the game, basically.
Yeah, and I mean, and I don't think that's unreasonable, and that's a consideration for me as well, which probably a conversation I will end up having with her. I feel like just so looking at so I'm looking at my mother, for example. I don't know what happened with her, but when I was like really into low carb, out of all the people who were thinking I'm crazy, she thought that I was a nutritional genius by that time, like already. So she actually hopped on the whole low carb thing. So she just like cut out like refined carbs, so like bread and grains and things like that. And she looks like a super fit woman at the age of 60. Like, she actually looks amazing. Now, she doesn't work out basically at all, but she looks pretty good. So I'm thinking about, if I was 60, would I be happy with a woman who looked like her, even though she's not into working out? Yeah, probably. And so I think diet is a much bigger consideration here than working out.
You have to factor in that your mother probably did a fair amount of physical labor in her youth, right?
Not that I know of. No.
No?
No, I mean, look, she would look better. Like, I don't know. I'm not examining my mom's ass, but I guess she would have like a rounder ass and whatever if she did work out. So yeah, you can enhance things for sure. But I feel like from this whole perspective, I think the diet is so much more important, because I mean, literally, you can gradually turn yourself into an obese person. Actually, that's one thing I wanted to mention in the beginning of the podcast. That we talked about how it's basically impossible to be obese unless you have some really fucked up habits. And then I started thinking about it later that it's tough to be morbidly obese. But technically, like over 25% body fat as a man, or over like, I don't know, 35% or 30% as a woman, you're technically obese. I think it's actually not that hard to maintain that shape. Like if
you have a decent appetite, it's very easy.
Very, very easy.
Doable.
I mean, I did the math, like for a guy to be at like say 27% body fat, if you're an average dude with a lean body mass of approximately 60 kilos at 180 centimeters, man, you only have to be like 85 kilos or something like that. Like, that's you can maintain that on like 2,600 calories if you're pretty sedentary. So it's actually really easy to be obese. So I feel like the diet is, and so this is the other thing. I feel like that's enough to ask of someone. Like, if you can eat a reasonably healthy diet your whole life, man, you're so ahead of the game. So I almost feel like at that point, also expecting someone to go to the gym or something, It's amazing if that happens, but whew, man, tall
Here's
order.
the thing, and that's one final note because then I have to go to work. So here's the thing. In my experience, I feel like if that discrepancy, even if in theory it could happen, like my girlfriend told me this in 2016 when I got reasonably lean for the first time. She was like, dude, stop losing fat because you're making me feel bad. Literally, she said this. And was like, you're starting to look so good that I'm starting to feel bad next to you. So this is what's gonna happen. I'm either gonna, if she is not into this at all, like, again, if she doesn't have to, she's just at the normal body weight, a normal body fat level, normal muscle mass. So basically, whatever, like, either I'm gonna be slowly, like you said, if let's say she has a gorgeous face, right? Because that's much harder. I mean, I always prefer, like, if your face is gorgeous, your body is much easier to change. It's like, give me 6 months and I can easily transform you if you're at, at a normal body composition starting on. But if you're ugly, heaven forbid I use that word, or unattractive to me, having a bigger butt is not going to change that. So yeah, the face is first. But in the long term, either she's gonna start feeling bad next to me and she's gonna start derailing my own progress just for her to not feel bad. And honestly, this is again going to sound politically incorrect, but this is the women who say, oh, I don't like men who work out, who are muscular. I like the dead bod guys with the belly. I'm like, sure you do, because then you don't have to feel bad about your poor eating habits and not moving at all. It's like, you can justify sitting on the couch if he also sits on the couch with you. So that's the thing. And so I feel like either that's going to happen or I'm going to be fed up. So for me, again, this is to each their own. I feel like if I invest so much into this and I'm involved in this, I'm sure that if I was an accountant or something, if I was going to the gym just 2 times per week just to quote unquote maintain, although I fucking hate that word. Do you know that guy who comes to the gym and he looks like he barely has any muscle, he barely has any strength, and he's like, oh, I'm just trying to maintain. I'm like, fucker, maintain what exactly? You're barely alive. Okay, I get it, like you're not trying to die, you want to maintain being alive, but it's like, it's like me saying I don't want to make any extra. I don't want to get richer. I just want to maintain what I have. Well, I have, $100 in my bank account, and it's like, maintain what exactly?
Yeah. Regardless, I think it's an interesting discussion. I think there was one moment where we basically came to a common ground, but also like we were talking about exactly the same thing. Because I think the rest of the time, so I think the difference between our outlooks is that I'm looking at working out more so in isolation, and I concede on the longer term consideration thing.
Yeah,
so
whereas I view it as part of one global interest / set of traits or characteristics or habits
and you're also like kind of pessimistic about like what the necessary implications of like not going to the gym are. So like you're also assuming, and I'm not saying it's like a completely unreasonable assumption, but like you're looking at the worst case scenario. So like, okay, so she's not going to the gym, which probably also means that she will not like me going to the gym, which will mean that there will be conflicts in the relationship. That will also mean that she will turn into a fat slob. It will also mean this and this and this. And I'm having a more optimistic outlook on that like, all of that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. So I think that's the main difference.
Yeah, but I view it like, okay, so I'm gone to the gym. But again, I work there, so it's different. But let's say if I didn't, like, what is she doing in those 2 hours? Because obviously she's not going to be alone. Or, I don't know, I feel like this would be a source of conflict. Who knows? And what you said earlier about people letting themselves go, I have the same feeling. It's like I see men and women who are my age or younger, and they already have, guys who have a belly, and women who are, no muscle tone or definition, whatever word you want to use whatsoever, and they're in the 20s, and that's the period where genetics are on your side, youth is still on your side. youth will cover up a lot of shit. The guys women who say, well, when I was 20 something, I was able to. I have clients who come to me and say, well, back in the day I used to be able to eat anything I wanted and I didn't gain an ounce, and now, and that's exactly my problem. You didn't give a fuck about your habits because youth or genetics took care of it, and now that it doesn't, your soul is starting to degrade, and that's my main concern here.
Well, folks, so let's agree on this. Probably I will get married next year. In 5 years, I will give you an update on how it went, and we can repeat this conversation. And then I will.
And maybe 5 years from now, I'm still gonna be single, and you will be like, "Well, told you back then, you're too picky."
Yeah. So 5 years later, we will repeat the same conversation, and I will either say like, "Fuck, Andrei, you were right," or it will be, whatever. It worked out. So let's hope for the best. But for now, let's wrap up because I know you have to go. So, but yeah, this was an interesting discussion.
Yep. And just as a final takeaway, just if you're here, just watch that Jordan video, Slaying the Dragons Within. I will link it in the description as well, or Abel will link it, but it's super, super good. So
yeah, check that out. All right, Andrei, thanks for the conversation today.
My pleasure. Thanks.